To all who come to this happy place, to all who come to this happy place, to all who come to this happy place, welcome.
This is gonna come to a surprise for a lot of people, especially Disney fans, but I never watched The Little Mermaid. I know, right? I love Disney, yet I didn't see the movie that saved the studio and started the Disney Renaissance. But I figured since the live action movie is coming out this week, and I like Halle Bailey's voice, let's say I like her voice, I might as well watch the OG movie and learn some psychological lessons from Ariel. As I was watching the movie, I noticed that Ariel was very naive, but that's not a bad thing at all. In fact, in this video, we're talking about 3 of the benefits that come with being quote-unquote naive or just lack of experience. The first psychological lesson is actually the Disney Renaissance. So believe it or not, this movie was an experiment and you had to be naive to even consider this movie. Let's just think about the movie for a second. We, the audience, have to believe that, first of all, we're underwater and that fish people are talking underwater. Not just fish people, fish, crabs, octopus beings, birds, all that stuff. So we have to believe that we're actually watching a cartoon come to life. Now, why am I saying that? If it wasn't for this type of storytelling, there would never be any of the next 9 movies following it. What makes a Disney movie a Disney movie? Put simply, it's the songs. Now, I'm no expert when it comes to musicals, but the idea behind The Little Mermaid was to combine storytelling with the Broadway musical. Specifically, there are about 5 solid songs that you'll see in a lot of movies in the Disney Renaissance that all originate with The Little Mermaid. Granted, The Little Mermaid had a couple elements from the earlier Disney classics, but you'll have the opening number or the opening song that introduces you to the world. You'll also have the famous I Want song. You'll have some sort of action song or conflict song. You'll have a villain song, and then you'll have the romance song. The Little Mermaid introduces us with the opening song about Ariel, but she's not there. Then we have one of the most popular Disney songs of all time, Part of Your World, which is her I Want song. We have Under the Sea, which helps move the plot forward. We have the villain song, Poor Unfortunate Souls, the popular romance song, Kiss the Girl. So these core principles change Disney's history forever. Being naive means that you have a lack of knowledge or lack of experience, and the only way you learn is by experimenting. It sounds like common knowledge now, just music being in Disney movies, but this was a pure freakish experiment that they didn't know how it was going to turn out. In fact, there was a lot of hate towards this movie, but we'll talk about that later on in the video. The Little Mermaid, it takes these numbers that are popular in Broadway musicals and innovates them in a way that's fresh and new for the audience. And it takes that formula and does it over and over again for Beauty and the Beast, Aladdin, Lion King. You can see all these type of core principles throughout the Disney Renaissance movies. This formula is even used in modern animation like Princess and the Frog, Tangled, Frozen, and Moana. This formula is an important life lesson.
And if it ain't broke, then don't try to fix it.
Now, I'm not saying that you can use the same rules over and over again and it won't get old. What I'm saying is if you have a couple core principles that you can take and innovate over and over again, make it fresh and new for the audience, why not use it? Specifically, to innovate means to make changes to something established, especially by introducing new methods, ideas, or products. And no movie does this better than Little Mermaid. It takes a couple core principles in storytelling and Broadway musical and combines it with 2D animation. That takes us to our next lesson, which is content creation. Have you ever seen a kid that's just happy all the time, like they wake up singing? I really wish adults acted like kids, especially when it came to solving problems, and here's why. Research shows that being creative is very important when it comes to problem solving and thinking outside the box. I like when it comes to ideas because in order to be a content creator, to some extent, you have to be a child again. You have to let your older self, which is your more logical engineer self, work with your emotional but imaginative younger self. Once you reach a level of balance between your older self and your younger self, you can then start orchestrating countless ideas that just come rapid fire over and over again, like da 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 da. Being naive allows you to bond with your younger inner child, so to speak. As a result, it helps you come up with these crazy ideas that first seem crazy in your head, but you're able to put it on paper and then you're able to make videos out of it. So it's really cool. I enjoy it. And if you're a content creator, I'm sure you can relate to it as well. One more thing that I want to talk about. I'm not glamorizing being inexperienced and running into trouble. When I was younger, like a couple of years ago, I noticed how naive I was. For full explanation, you can check out the Why I'm Single trilogy. More on that to come. But anyways, so Ariel's naive, but she's also very positive and optimistic about the future. And that's going to be our final lesson. So at the beginning of the video, we mentioned how this movie received some hate. Jeffrey Katzenberg, who used to work for Disney, he felt that the movie would not do well because it was a girl movie. And more than that, he actually wanted to cut out a part of your world from the movie, which would have been disastrous if he actually did that. Ariel's positivity and her optimism for the land, at first it was dashed on by her dad, but it was her positive attitude that kept her going and eventually won the guy over, who she falls in love with in a day, which I have my thoughts about, but we're not going to talk about that today. It also helps the guy defeat the villain with the boat, which I have my thoughts on, which I'm not going to talk about today. But ultimately, it helps change the heart of her father by her being optimistic and her proving by her actions instead of just telling her dad. Studies actually show that being optimistic is very, very powerful, not just for your mental health, but it can also help your physical health as well. For those who don't know, I do have Crohn's disease, and I was looking up some ways to cope with a chronic illness, and oddly enough, being optimistic is very, very important when dealing with not just chronic issues, but life in general. One thing about being naive is that it kind of requires you to be optimistic. Even though you don't know everything, you still have positive hopes about what will happen. I'm not talking about just La La Land. I mean just looking forward about the future and looking forward to stuff to do. There was some research done, and most optimistic women live on average 5.4% longer, approximately 4.4 years. We're also more likely to achieve exceptional longevity, living over 90 years. So optimism does have a direct outcome on not only your mental health, but your physical health as well. So even though this movie had a lot of haters and doubters, being optimistic and experimenting and being naive led to the success and led to formulas and led to tons and tons of profit, revenue, and cha-ching, and more cheese for the mouse. So with that being said, that's pretty much it. I just want to talk about these brief lessons. How being naive was important in creating the movie, how being naive is important when it comes up to generating ideas and overall being creative. And then finally, how being optimistic can really help not only your mental health, but your physical health, and also change literally the course of history by your viewpoint. So with that being said, that's pretty much it. That's all I wanted to talk about for today. That's just one of the highlights. Thank you all so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, you can give it a heart. If you want to talk more down below, feel free to let me know. If you really enjoyed the video, you can share it. And if you're feeling froggy and you want to support the Fitness and Fandom fam, you can do all three. As always, remember to stay mentally fit, emotionally fit, and physically fit, and I will see you all in the next video.